Story 1. Lack of communication. If only one partner or no partners tries to communicate, I don't think there is any room for long-term growth. Story 2. Unrealistic expectations from both sides have ruined everything. Additionally, individuals who stand by their statements and decisions with full accountability are nearly extinct. Story 3. Most relationships fail due to poor communication, emotional neglect, and unrealistic expectations influenced by social media. When unaddressed resentment and constant comparison are added, the connection gradually fades. Story 4. That disrespect has become the norm, talking to someone behind their partner's back and then saying it is not a big deal. Story 5. Entitlement. People often want much more than they deserve, and when they get close to it, they frequently do not give back at all. They want everything but sacrifice nothing. They demand that you be mindful of their insecurities, but if you have any, that is your problem. Story 6. Lack of romance. Make your partner feel special no matter what. Never stop dating your partner. That's what ruined my relationship, if you ask my ex-wife. Story 7. A few things come to mind. The lack of sufficient community support and engagement leads to isolation, which in turn causes individuals to seek all their emotional and social needs from a partner. People can be needy and lonely enough to rush into relationships without much thought. This creates a burden, as one person's emotional connection becomes the sole focus, which can breed resentment. I believe the overload of media and information exacerbates this issue. As our attention spans decrease, our ability to delay gratification diminishes as well. We often lack the mental resilience or emotional skills to genuinely take the time to get to know someone or resolve issues. Furthermore, there are so many options available that there tends to be a greater fear of missing out or a belief that the grass is greener on the other side compared to the past. The lockdown made many teenagers and emerging adults miss out on important social milestones and developmental periods, resulting in genuine uncertainty about how to initiate and maintain relationships. Even individuals who were socially established experienced some loss of social skills due to prolonged isolation from regular society. Additionally, people are still adjusting to the changing expectations for relationships. Economic conditions have shifted the perspective on long-term relationships, which were once viewed as both a pragmatic partnership and a romantic connection. Now that individuals can live independently and divorce is more socially accepted, they are less likely to endure difficult situations. Ideally, we will find a balance where we can leave if necessary but not give up on a meaningful connection too soon. That said, I do not necessarily believe that relationships are more or less happy than in previous time periods. They face some of the same old challenges, along with some new ones. Story 8. I don't believe relationships were better in the past. I think people are just more able to leave now. Story 9. I believe that applications like Tinder and Hinge, along with hookup culture in general, have fostered a mindset that relationships that are not working should be abandoned. It is too easy to go out and find the next partner, or at least to think you can, so people are not as willing to put in the hard work of compromising, sacrificing, and improving themselves that is necessary to sustain a long-term relationship. Story 10. Cell phones, specifically Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook, have become a distraction. My partner just stares at her phone. We don't do much anymore. Story 11. I think more people are comfortable being single. I don't believe relationships can be ruined unless they are unhealthy to begin with. Story 12. The inflated importance of sex has been elevated to unrealistic levels, turning it into a supposed need rather than acknowledging it as a want. This perspective has rendered it toxic. Story 13. Rushing into relationships out of fear of loneliness, desperation, or low self-esteem causes many people to overlook the importance of self-love and validation. People often roll their eyes when advised to channel the love, validation, security, and happiness they seek from others into themselves. However, if they took the time to heal from their traumas and insecurities, discover themselves, and learn to be complete and happy independently, they would not pedestalize or rush into relationships or depend on a partner to take on a parental role in their lives. Story 14. Working 8 hours a day and commuting can be exhausting, especially when handling everything alone or just with one other person. We are expected to maintain a full-time job, cook, clean, stay in shape, and have a social life. It's overwhelming, and there simply isn't enough time or energy in a single day. Story 15. Some men believe they are like Patrick Bateman, yet they resemble characters like Badger or Skinny Pete, expecting women to embody Brie Van de Kamp right from the start while contributing very little. Many also expect women to bear the consequences of sexually transmitted infections or the responsibility of raising children from previous relationships. Additionally, some men interpret being married or in a relationship as "you are mine, but I am still single." Similarly, some women feel entitled to men with six-figure incomes or higher while having limited life skills such as cooking, cleaning, or parenting. They may view children as a way to receive child support, while also expecting high-quality men to take on the responsibility of raising kids they chose to have with partners who are not contributing. Story 16. What remains consistent is people's inability to express their feelings, as it is often more hurtful in the end to keep secrets. This builds resentment. Additionally, issues such as patriarchy, misogyny, and domestic violence continue to persist. Story 17. It's almost as if people are searching for reasons to break up with others these days. Additionally, it appears that people are more selfish now. Relationships require effort and patience, and that is not something many are willing to do for someone else. Story 18. I am convinced that pornography and social media consumption have significantly diminished many people's cognitive abilities regarding basic social norms and respect. There is also a lack of understanding of what truly matters in life, such as forming genuine deep connections rather than the desire to showcase artificial lives and pursue fleeting pleasure from activities like pornography and drug use. We seem to be lost. Story 19. Smartphones and social media are significant distractions that can negatively impact relationships. Story 20. Social media has led people to adopt unrealistic antisocial habits and views that are no longer reasonable, distancing them from their community members. Story 21. Lack of hope in the future. If you don't think your life is going anywhere, you have no reason to stay attached to one person. The constant stimulation we receive nowadays, thanks to the devices we carry in our pockets, is intensifying the struggle for happiness. Story 22. The abuse and misuse of the concepts of boundaries and respecting your feelings, thoughts, and attitudes is a significant issue. To be clear, you are allowed to have whatever boundaries you want. You are entitled to your thoughts, feelings, attitudes, and opinions. However, that does not mean that the other person must accept them. If you have a toxic trait or a harmful way of expressing yourself, or if you wish to behave in a certain way, your partner can respect your feelings while also saying, "This is my stop. I'm getting off here." They do not have to stay, and they are not toxic or unreasonable for expressing their boundaries. Story 23. From experience. Pornography. Take it from me, if you are in any relationship or get into one, end it. Story 24. People need to focus on their relationship with themselves first. Another person is not going to make your problems disappear. Story 25. Laziness, ego, and complacency can hinder relationships. I am currently going through a divorce, and after months of therapy, I have concluded with my therapist and marriage counselor that most relationships not involving infidelity, violence, or abuse can recover if both parties are willing to put in the effort. Story 26. Being compelled to move in together sooner than is reasonable for the relationship due to the pressures of capitalism. Story 27. Cell phones and social media. Next up is the lack of grounded morals and people living their faith rather than doing whatever feels good. That is about it. Story 28. The same thing that always occurs. An inability to communicate effectively. The medium varies, but poor communication is the root of it all. Story 29. Not enough communication leads to various problems. Not realizing that the relationship is masking some personal issues instead of solving them can result in unresolved problems resurfacing later on. I speak from experience. Story 30. It's not one thing but many. Closed off emotionally. Constantly looking for better options, even though what you currently have is great. Looking for the slightest thing to end it. Social media clouding thinking and comparing your relationship to others. Unrealistic expectations for dates. If there is not an immediate connection, ending it. Many are focused on physical intimacy early on. While physical intimacy is important, there are many other aspects to focus on in a relationship, such as compatibility, emotional connection, and general understanding. Not being honest with your partner and speaking negatively about them when they're not around. I could continue, but that would be extensive. Story 31. Lack of commitment does not refer to seeking other areas, but to a genuine lack of dedication to each other. Commitment involves both sides actively communicating, compromising, and putting in effort. These actions enable both parties to resonate and love one another. Story 32. Men, please focus on your girlfriend. Make her feel pleasure first. Don't just engage and leave. Despite what you may have learned from adult films, we don't actually enjoy only being used until you are finished. Just because you are done doesn't mean we are satisfied. Story 33. Communication and loyalty remain relevant. In today's world, pornography and influencers play a significant role. These factors not only affect relationships but are also undermining the fabric of our society. Story 34. People come together out of boredom or to find companionship, not necessarily due to genuine feelings and love. Whenever they have other options, they tend to leave. Story 35. Because of how we use our devices and consume content, we are training ourselves to be vaguely dissatisfied all the time. We often wonder, even when we are enjoying something, if we should be doing something else instead. I experience this when I am watching videos, listening to an audiobook, or reading an article. There is an old saying, in the way you do anything, you do everything. So, even though watching short videos isn't the same as dating a human being, it is naive to think that the way we train our brains to behave during our screen time isn't affecting how we treat each other, even when we put our phones away. Story 36. The illusion that everyone is disposable because of everything that seems readily available through social media persists. That illusion that the grass is always greener is misleading, and in reality, it is not. Story 37. Social media is prevalent. There is always something better out there, and it impacts everyone. This is not healthy. Financial independence for women has become more common. Women now have jobs and financial resources of their own. In the past, women often had to marry for financial security and would tolerate a lot. Now, many women choose to remain single or end relationships rather than take on the role of caregiver and mother while also working full-time. Unfortunately, many men are not stepping up to share equal responsibilities at home and are not contributing equally to emotional labor. Story 38. From what I can tell, people are often too picky and give up easily. I have a group of single girlfriends, and sometimes the reasons they won't give a guy a chance from a dating site or why they cut things off with a guy they've been seeing make me cringe. But then they say, aggravating cupcake. I want what you have with your husband. Oh really? I got into a long-distance relationship with a man I had just met. Did that for a year, worked through the challenges of figuring out who would move where, and faced my mother about my choice of partner for about 2 years. She wanted me to be with someone religious. You're not going to do all that, Becky. I watched you unmatch with a guy because you didn't like how he posed in one of his profile pictures. Story 39. One-night stands. Lack of communication. Lack of commitment. Lack of respect. Lack of understanding. Lack of loyalty. Selfishness. Unreasonably high standards. The list continues. Story 40. So many dating apps are now at a person's fingertips that dating isn't what it used to be. Someone could be talking to 5 or 6 people, and you wouldn't even know. Meanwhile, you think you're actually getting to know someone, and they're focusing on you. That person gets bored, and you're blocked or deleted in an instant because they still have a few more people to choose from. There's a lack of respect, accountability, trust, and manners. The list goes on. Many people expect luxuries and are taken to 5-star restaurants on first dates. What is that? Who does that to someone? You work hard for your money and don't want to spend yours, but are more than happy to spend someone else's. That's not right. This isn't just one gender. It's all of them and everything in between. It's incredibly wild what the dating scene has become. I've been with my partner for nearly 10 years. but I've already decided that if we ever part ways, I wouldn't even bother trying to date again. I'd just live my life as a pet owner and call it a day. Story 41. It seems that everyone is frustrated with and has had enough of the man-child. Women are no longer tolerating immature behavior. Story 42. People project themselves onto their partners rather than seeing them for who they truly are. This creates unrealistic expectations for the other person. Story 43. Social media has caused many issues in relationships. There is a prevalence of poor relationship advice and insincere individuals who like to showcase their relationships, which are often unhappy in reality. Yet, people compare their own partners to these superficial portrayals online and seem to demand more and more from them. Story 44. She's prettier than my girlfriend. He makes more money than my current boyfriend. She's skinnier than my girlfriend. He's more in shape than my boyfriend. My other friends' boyfriends take them on more holidays than my boyfriend. The list could go on. Be happy together and work on what needs improvement. Strive to be better versions of yourselves to enhance your current relationship. Story 45. Poor communication or lack thereof. I find that people generally have a hard time with difficult discussions. Story 46. There are several factors that can contribute to the strain on relationships today, and it often depends on the specific circumstances of each relationship. These factors include communication issues, technology and social media, lack of quality time, unrealistic expectations, finances, infidelity, and lack of effort or growth. Story 47. Stupidity. Given the widespread presence of texts and social media, some believe they can keep certain actions or behaviors hidden. Nothing is concealed in this day and age. Cheating on a spouse will eventually be discovered, and quickly. Story 48. Lack of trust, lack of understanding, and the normalization of devaluing a bond one holds dear are prevalent issues today. Maintaining multiple partners and mocking true partnership has become common, while genuine lovers are labeled as old and backward thinking. Story 49. Lack of communication. You may not be compatible with most people, but good communication skills are how you determine compatibility. Individuals with decent communication skills are difficult to find nowadays. Story 50. The compulsive fear of being awkward when vulnerability actually allows deep, meaningful connections to develop. Story 51. There is a lack of effort in finding an effective solution to differences in personalities, a lack of respect for personal boundaries, and a lack of commitment. Additionally, there is a lack of a "we are a team" mentality. I do not agree with the idea that social media is the cause of relationship issues. In my experience, any relationship that has fallen apart has had nothing to do with the amount of time spent on social media. Story 52. Settling for someone who isn't a good fit for you just because society tells us we aren't complete unless we have a partner is a misconception that has been ingrained in us since birth. Sometimes you are much better off alone. Story 53. They view relationships as a job, but not in the sense that they require effort. It's as if they believe they can simply choose to enter or exit being single or in a relationship, which is quite remarkable. Story 54. Unrealistic expectations and the belief that you should not have to compromise because it is harmful for your partner to ask you to do something or to need something from you that requires effort. When things get difficult, people often disengage. Story 55. Lack of honesty, lack of consistency, cheating, and overall lack of consideration for your partner. Story 56. Unrealistic expectations, lack of communication, disrespect, and social media contribute to issues. In some cases, outside influences such as friends or family can also play a role. Story 57. Unrealistic expectations perpetuated by Hollywood and the media, a general lack of societal morals and a sense of responsibility, and the push for casual sex and promiscuity can lead to individuals conditioning themselves to break up and experience emotional trauma, making them less likely to bond and connect with future partners. Story 58. People commodifying others. Your significant other will grow old, may get sick, and might not be as enjoyable to be around. I know a few women who were abandoned after developing breast cancer, experiencing mental health issues, or grieving the loss of their parents. Story 59. Social media leads people to compare their entire relationships to the glimpses they see of others online. Story 60. Just communication and fear of being open and vulnerable lead to misunderstandings and assumptions, which can spiral from there. Story 61. I don't want to label it as narcissism, but the older I get, the more I realize that many people nowadays are quite self-centered. With all the facial tattoos and the constant self-absorption, it's concerning. This behavior isn't beneficial for anyone. Those same individuals are often the ones who will abandon you for what seems like a better opportunity. They pretend to be the heart of society, but in reality, they are quite the opposite. Story 62. A discordant and aggressive environment that seeks to create friction about every difference between two people. Story 63. Convenience over commitment. Leaving as soon as being with someone becomes slightly inconvenient. Story 64. Lack of communication, empathy, and understanding can lead to the failure of many relationships. Often, one person takes on a lot of responsibilities with little or no help and does not know how to ask for assistance. There is also a lack of basic understanding. When someone becomes comfortable in a routine, they may begin to depend on the other person and become accustomed to their behavior and contributions. This can lead to a decrease in caring or a loss of interest in activities they once enjoyed with their partner because they become complacent and assume that the other person will always be there, even if they no longer invest the same energy as they did at the beginning of the relationship. Story 65. There are many potential reasons for relationship failures, such as immaturity and differing morals. While I cannot definitively explain why most relationships fail, I can share that my relationship thrives because we share similar values and life goals. When issues arise, we always communicate openly and honestly, giving each other the benefit of the doubt and not assuming the worst of one another. Story 66. YouTube and TikTok. Now hear me out. Before I get criticized here, the majority of people I've seen dating have no hobbies other than watching television or short videos and memes. Those are fine in moderation, but when that's all you do all the time, it isn't a hobby. It's a problem. Story 67. Dating applications weaken connections. People always know they can find a date on the app, as it's much harder in real life to know who is single, let alone who might be attracted to them. Therefore, they jump into the apps, but the grass always seems greener on the next swipe. It is too easy to overlook potential partners while waiting for the perfect match. Story 68. There are too many perceived options for partners. Before social media and the internet, most people interacted with a very small group of individuals. Now, interaction with a stranger of the opposite sex is just a click away. Story 69. This may get me criticism from the polyamorous community, but I believe the normalization of polyamory has led many individuals to easily switch between partners and leave relationships when challenges arise, rather than putting in the effort to work through conflicts. It is much easier to abandon a relationship if a new one can be found and pursued before ending the previous one. Story 70. Unrealistic expectations about love. My ex broke up with me 2 months ago because he didn't feel the same way as at the beginning. I didn't see it coming because we respected each other, had a lot in common, and I thought we had a good relationship and plans for the future. Story 71. The mindset that there is always someone better can be misleading. In reality, you have to put in effort to make relationships work. While it may seem that the grass is greener on the other side, believing this every time a minor inconvenience occurs can be detrimental. Nowadays, many people seem reluctant to communicate. Story 72. Both partners need to work as a team and be judgment-free with each other. A long-lasting relationship requires unconditional love and a judgment-free zone. Everyone carries baggage into a relationship, and both individuals may stumble over it when they unpack it together. Patience is essential. Many people do not want to have patience with their partner. To sustain a long-term relationship, you must cultivate patience. I have been with my husband for 5 years, and we have grown together. We started as friends and then evolved into something more. Some people enter relationships thinking they are always 50-50, but at times one partner may be at 60 and the other has to be strong and vice versa. I also believe that social media has influenced a trend where couples break up when challenges arise. If you desire a lasting relationship, You must be willing to endure difficulties with your partner and support one another. You must be willing to grow together, but many people aren't lifelong learners. They reach a certain point in life and decide they are satisfied and no longer wish to grow, which creates a divide. Additionally, marriage is not the end but the beginning of a significant lifelong relationship. Many individuals get married and stop trying, but it's important to continually invest in the one you love. Story 73. Discovering they are still pro-Trump. At this point in American history, if someone is still supporting Trump, I do not want anything to do with them. I lost my brother to sacrilegious Trumpism a long time ago, along with a number of old friends. American democracy and our constitutional republic are more important to this old disabled combat veteran. Story 74. Lack of communication and understanding between couples regarding important matters. Infantilization of men occurs when men perceive their wives as maternal figures responsible for cleaning up after them and fixing their issues. Similarly, wives may feel compelled to take care of their husbands because they view them as immature. Story 75. Comparisons and expectations of finding someone better eventually have all stemmed from social media. Story 76. In my experience, a lack of self-awareness often leads to a lack of accountability. When combined with poor communication, this creates a significant problem. However, I believe this is not a new issue. It's simply being discussed more frequently due to social media. Story 77. We do not have relationships. We have images of each other that we are related to. We have stopped seeing the person as they are and instead view them based on the past, preventing us from truly meeting or having contact with one another. Story 78. People are financially strained, anxious, and stressed. It is challenging to avoid the impact of these feelings on their relationships. Story 79. Social media has a significant impact. It is too easy to cheat nowadays, and it seems that most people struggle to control themselves. Story 80. The illusion of options and constant comparisons creates the belief that there is always a better choice. The truth is, there will always be someone who seems smarter, more attractive, or kinder than your partner. However, love is ultimately a decision to choose your partner and appreciate their qualities. Many people often forget this. Story 81. The culture that relationships cannot fail persists. Even questions like this, suggesting that failed relationships are ruined, ignore that the vast majority of relationships do fail. We have simply not been taught how to deal with loss or grief and are unfortunately sliding back toward restrictive, conservative views on relationships that do not allow bad relationships to be acknowledged as just that, bad relationships that end. Story 82. Perfectionism and unrealistic expectations, along with self-centeredness, have become normalized over the years. It's difficult to constantly look over your shoulder. Partners, at least as presented on social media, have stopped being people you genuinely connect with and have become more like trophies to show off to friends and family. It all feels too superficial. Story 83. Trust issues and lack of communication can lead to problems in relationships. My idea is that it's not trust without us. If you don't trust the person you're with, then why are you with them? Additionally, communication issues often stem from a lack of comprehension. Being able to communicate effectively and practice active listening is essential. Story 84. A lack of self-awareness about what makes someone satisfied or happy. Additionally, there is a lack of empathy regarding others who do not know what makes them satisfied or happy. Story 85. For both romantic and platonic relationships, we have overcorrected our behavior, leading to a lack of communication, understanding, and forgiveness. People expect community but do not make an effort for others. Story 86. Lack of respect for relationships has become prevalent. Nowadays, relationships often lack trust, with individuals sharing private information about their significant others, including intimate details, and arguing in public about personal matters that should remain private. It may sound strange, but your relationship should appear strong to those around you, even if it is not. If you discuss private aspects of your life or the issues you face with others, including friends, it is unlikely the relationship will thrive. No relationship is perfect, but if you are not willing to support your partner, who else will? Story 87. Lack of emotional intelligence, patience, and communication can lead to misunderstandings. Social media often influences people to view every small issue as a major problem without considering the context. Self-care can be misinterpreted as neglecting effort in relationships, which require dedication. Many individuals lose patience and become exhausted from handling even minor concerns. It appears that no one is willing to put in the necessary work. Story 88. People are often overly specific about things. Algorithms have certain conditions that must be precisely tailored to individuals. As a result, unless they find their exact match, they are unhappy. Story 89. For some time, I have been speculating that people have become less empathetic. By this, I mainly mean that most individuals have lost the ability to step out of their circle and try to understand the world through another person's perspective. This is connected to several other problems: lack of communication, misunderstandings, false expectations, and so on. I am not sure why we have this development. Perhaps because being oneself, expressing oneself, defending oneself, and asserting one's rights has become one of the main topics in everything. You can see it everywhere. A woman expecting a man to be just as open with his feelings as she is with hers. A girl feeling betrayed because a friend went to another friend over the weekend. A modern teenager with new beliefs feeling frustrated with their conservative parents for not understanding their point of view. Conservative parents clinging to their old values and refusing to accept that the world is changing at a different pace. A man not wanting to acknowledge that a woman can have it harder than he does in the real world. I have seen this everywhere. At home, at university, at work, among friends, and between lovers. It is pervasive. Story 90. How transactional relationships have become. Depending on the context, it's valid, but people are treating their relationships as if their partners are not potential life partners or teammates in love. Everything feels so transactional nowadays. It makes one wonder why not just be casual partners. Story 91. Excessive choices. Social media. Lack of mental stability. Equal status competition. Self-importance. Communication. Story 92. Lack of communication, combined with unreasonable expectations, stems from a poor understanding of the complexity of others' lives. Story 93. Self-importance. Being on your phone instead of being present with real people breaks my heart. It is sad to see children trying to get their parents' attention away from their phones. Story 94. Social media influences people's perceptions, leading some to believe that better options are always available, resulting in a lack of commitment. Furthermore, relationship advice from social media can be either constructive or detrimental, potentially harming relationships that just need open communication. Additionally, social media often sets unrealistic expectations regarding finances, appearance, and hobbies or activities. Story 95. Keeping score. They took the garbage out 4 times, so I will only take it out 4 times. Story 96. Communication, especially after COVID, has made being your significant other's only support person feel overwhelming. There is so much pressure to serve as a partner and replace the emotional and social support that friends, family, and colleagues used to provide. Sometimes I feel like my husband could be my best friend, while at other times, I see him primarily as my husband and the father of our child, not so much as a friend. I believe that's okay. The pressure of having a family is significant, and it's natural for relationships to have ups and downs. However, it's unnatural to lack any other forms of support. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.